For joining us here. This is Business at 9 and I'm Nivedna Prabhu. Let's begin with our top focus for the hour. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, or better known as the AAIB, said that sections of global media are repeatedly attempting to draw conclusions through selective, unverified reporting and call such actions irresponsible. Now, the AAIB also said that it's essential to respect the sensitivity of families of passengers, crew members and others who lost their lives in the Air India crash, as the investigation into the tragedy is still underway. Now, one should refrain from spreading premature narratives, and final pro report on the AI plane crash will come out with root causes and recommendations, is what the AAIB has said. But let me take those points across to my guest who's joining me this evening, Jitendra Bhargava, former ED Air India. Mr. Jitendra, thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here this evening. Just looking at what has been said in this, let me begin by asking you this. Given the fact that they've said this is not the time to create public anxiety, but isn't transparency the antidote to anxiety, especially when lives are involved?
Let's look at it. There was a preliminary report which had been released at a time when people had no clue about it as to what.
All right. We seem to have run into some technical issue with Mr. Bhargava's line. We'll get him back on the show. But let me put that into perspective for you. And this is, of course, a big development that we're looking at in terms of what this has been, said. Because earlier as well, we're looking at how this investigation has panned out. Now, what you essentially see on your screens is also very important details about what the contention is by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, but how we're countering that as well. Because remember, viewers, given the aspect that it's going to take 3 months for that report to come out, but we're also talking about innocent lives. Nobody is really talking about those families who are, of course, grieving the lives of their loved ones in that tragic incident. But given what the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has said, also to note is that sections of global media are repeatedly attempting to draw conclusions through selective, unverified reporting, which is what we've seen in the past couple of weeks. And they've also gone on to call such actions irresponsible. Now, the AAIB also said that it's essential to respect the sensitivity, like I was explaining and putting that into perspective, that the crew members and others who lost their lives in the Air India crash, as the investigation into the tragedy is still underway. All right, we'll continue to track that significant development, but for the moment, let's tell you more that we're tracking tonight. Now, Ashish Chauhan, MD and CEO NSE, on the occasion of his book launch, in fact, spoke exclusively to ET Now's Anurag Shah on the do's and don'ts of investing. He also explained how patience is key to successful investing. Listen.
कई बार हम लोग निवेश को एक तरह से समझते हैं कि सुबह खरीद कर शाम को बेचने का निवेश कहते हैं, क्योंकि टेलीविजन पे, व्हाट्सएप पे, एसएमएस पे आपको हर रोज 50,000 मैसेज आते हैं, और जब हमको टेलीफोन खरीदना होता है, मोबाइल फोन, तो भी हम 25 जगह पे कंपेयर करते हैं कि भाई ये 15,000 रुपये का, ये 5,000 रुपये का है, सेम चीजें मिल रही है, तो मैं 5,000 रुपये का क्यों ना खरीदूं। लेकिन जब हमें 1 लाख रुपए का कोई निवेश करना है तो हम टिप पे भी कर लेते हैं, या तो टेलीविजन पे सुन के या अखबार में पढ़ के कर लेते हैं। तो मुझे लग रहा है कि जो अपना धन हमने बचाया हुआ है बड़ी मेहनत से, या तो हमारे पुरखों ने बचाया हुआ है, उसकी वृद्धि हो वैसा हमें करना चाहिए, और लंबी अवधि के लिए निवेश करना चाहिए। जो ट्रेडिंग करते हैं सुबह शाम, जो आपने टैक्सी ड्राइवर की भी बात कही, तो क्योंकि वो सक्षम नहीं है, हो सकता है उसके पास पहले पैसे होंगे, लेकिन वो ट्रेनिंग नहीं मिली थी उसको, या तो वो मॉनिटरली सक्षम नहीं थे, तो उनको लंबी अवधि के लिए निवेश करना चाहिए। और जो एक्सपर्ट नहीं हो तो डेरिवेटिव्स तरफ जाना ही नहीं चाहिए। बिल्कुल, आपको कितना भी प्रलोभन हो जाए, आपको डेरिवेटिव्स नहीं करना चाहिए। लेकिन सुबह खरीद कर शाम को भी नहीं बेचना चाहिए। आपको समय नहीं है क्योंकि आप टैक्सी कर रहे हो, या कोई और काम कर रहे हो, या कोई दुकान चला रहे हो, या कोई ऑफिस में नौकरी कर रहे हो, तो आप म्यूचुअल फंड के माध्यम से भी आप निवेश कर सकते हो, आप पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर के द्वारा भी निवेश कर सकते हो, आप फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर की भी एडवाइस ले सकते हो, क्योंकि वो एक्सपर्ट है। तो आप जैसे खुद की दवाई नहीं करनी चाहिए, बिल्कुल वैसे ही आपको कई बार पता नहीं है तो निवेश भी खुद कोशिश नहीं करनी चाहिए, और कतई सुबह खरीद के शाम को बेचना कोई निवेश नहीं है, उसको सट्टा कहते हैं, ट्रेडिंग कहते हैं, उसमें आपका पैसा जरूर जाएगा।
All right, we are circling back to our top story that we have been discussing for the past couple of minutes. But let me take that opportunity to reintroduce my guest on the show tonight, Jitendra Bhargava, former ED of Air India. Mr. Bhargava, like I said previously, thank you very much for taking the time out. We seem to have run into a technical issue over there. But given the aspect of, as to what we were talking about, they have said that it's not the time to create public anxiety. And like how I was putting into perspective, isn't transparency the antidote to anxiety, especially when innocent lives are involved?
When you talk of transparency, it does not mean that all the facts should be put in public domain prematurely. Preliminary report has been released with certain aspects, sequence of events as they unfolded on June 12th, leading to the final crash on the building, etc., and loss of life. We all know about it. It's a sad thing that so many people lost lives. But the reality is, the preliminary report had made it very clear in the foreword that this is not an attempt to apportion blame or liability. Don't read too much into it. And toward the end, it says, we are making no recommendation to Boeing or the engine manufacturer because it needs more investigation, more evidences, more analysis. But if somebody is to pick up and said, look, we are going to be blaming people for it, the pilots who can't answer it, etc. And the Air India CEO has also only a couple of days come out and said, we were not at fault. Now, if you have these kind of facts available, why come to a conclusion? Pick up bits and pieces from the preliminary report and go ahead. I'm not holding brief for the people who released it, the Air Accident Investigation Bureau. Why did they release the report in the early hours of the day? Couldn't they have found a better time, better occasion at a press conference to answer the queries of the media people? Because as you very rightly said, there is anxiety on one side, there is curiosity on the other side. They should have been able to answer. But if you leave it like this hanging, then people will speculate because each one of the media guys globally, etc., is trying to be one better than the other and trying to put kind of blame on the poor pilots. Let the investigation, as the report very clearly says,
need to be asked because we are talking about absolutely investigation should take place given that particular timeline, Mr. Bhargava. Sorry to have interjected you there.
No, please.
They have cautioned against premature narratives, and some sarkari person decides to release this advisory and then cautions not to speak about it. This is just organized chaos because can silence also fuel misinformation and speculation. So where's the right balance?
No, but question comes in: can you rush through a report? If it's going to take 3 months, so be it. But then people would have said, they would have kept speculating it over a period of time that, look, the field is so wide, I can speculate on anything. We all know the number of experts, the foreign pilots and everybody came out with videos and circulated them on WhatsApp, creating a totally different kind of, far away from this reality. And the reality, the truth is that there are umpteen cases of accident probes where the final report has proved to be totally distinct from what was surmised in the preliminary report. So there is no reason why it can't happen in this case. So don't take the leads out of the preliminary report. Await the final outcome and you'll get it. Let's not forget, there are people, experts with varying backgrounds, etc., who are going to do the job thoroughly. But media trying to jump the gun and say, look, this is what could happen. This is what has happened.
Mr. Bhargava, no one is questioning about who and what's the investigation report and how that's going to pan out eventually. But, when the public is asked to await this final report, shouldn't there be at least regular interim disclosure so that accountability isn't postponed indefinitely, so that there is, no rise to more speculations, that is?
No, the question is,
how do you look at that?
What was to totally avoid sharing the preliminary report? The situation would have been that media would have said, why is it taking so long? It shouldn't take so long. They would have been given. Having had released the report, then we start finding faults in it. Now, it's a catch-22 situation. You do it, you be damned. You don't do it, you still be damned. But we all know, yes, it was an unfortunate accident. People lost their lives. It has to be handled with empathy because family people want closure. But how to go about it, that's what is it. And let me share with you that no accident in the world has got a report in less than 2-3 months' time. So let's wait for it another few weeks and we'll get the final outcome.
But, as you pointed out, Mr. Bhargava, that it's a matter of time where it will eventually come through. What we're given to understand is that Air India CEO also said that the probe gives clarity, yet spurs new questions as well. So in the mind of even the lives of, those innocent families, that is as well, there is the other aspect to be looking at it.
No, you have to look at all aspects, men and machines. Air India's CEO came out in the media a month after the accident. He didn't rush through it on the second or third day and said, look, I'm giving Air India a clean chit. He didn't do anything of that kind. So let the proper report come in and you will have an answer to it. I can all understand, yes, media is keen that the report comes out earliest. The family members of those who perished in the accident also want the same thing. But if you want conclusive evidence without a shred of doubt in the authenticity of the report, I think you must give them time.
Talking about the other aspect, Mr. Bhargava, given that, is there a collusion between airlines and aircraft companies? In this case, of course, Boeing, because no one's really talking about the victims here. Right from the fact that we're talking about the timeline, what will be achieved here. But in a sense, we've forgotten that particular aspect, which is key.
No. I think immediately after the accident, all of attention was on the victims and the victims' families. Now you move to stage 2, which is the investigation. Family members are as keen on an early closure, but getting through the exact fact on what went wrong on the day of the accident. But we can't say that every morning or every program or every issue that is related to the accident, we're talking about it. Everybody wants an early closure, but the family wants it. So that's the way to look at it. But to say that, look, there is more time being taken than necessary, all we are looking at, if you want to err, you must err on the side of caution, because you are handling the issue of accidents, and because of the global character, what we say about the Dreamliner aircraft will have ramifications on 1,190 more Dreamliners operating around the world. So they have to handle it with sensitivity, not just for the victims' families, but even for the aviation industry.
Talking about how you have put that, essentially, of course, talking about the timeline and then the sensitivity for everybody who's involved. Let me take a cue from what has also been said in the AAIB report, that they've slammed a certain section of the global media for irresponsible reporting. But look at also the conspiracy theories, Mr. Bhargava, because it's a way to pin everything on human error, and there's lacking accountability for Boeing as well. What do you make of that at this given point?
If the preliminary report very categorically stated that more detailed investigation is going to take place and you must await the outcome of it, why is the media jumping the gun, international media jumping the gun and reporting it in a speculative manner? That's why one is look at. The only one can say, because every action has an objective. Now, is the objective to defend the large multinationals involved? So we have to look at everything, whether it's the Boeing aircraft, whether it's the engine manufacturer, or it is the fuel switch manufacturer. You've got to look at all those aspects. There has to be a reason behind it. So I'm glad that the ministry, AAIB, came up with a clarification, but I only wish it had been stronger and a bigger rebuttal than what it was actually in the one-page statement that they issued today.
All right, so you're saying it's a good thing, but the other purview is that the urgent final report perhaps could also prevent future accidents if it's a problem with the aircraft.
Yeah, it does happen. That's what the forward also says it, that when you do an investigation, it gets to the manufacturers, engine manufacturers on what went wrong. Advisories, directives are issued to the airline on what precautions to take. So that is where you got to look at it, that the investigation will take time. There are multiple agencies involved in the investigation. You will have consensus on it. You will break the findings and say, look, I am not just speculating. I'm arriving at a certain conclusion because these facts lead me to that conclusion. And everybody will have to, get a chance to express their view, give their point of view, and then you come and say, well, this is the most legitimate reason why the accident took place.
Mr. Bhargava, of course, that is one way of looking at it. But in a country where we've seen multiple, incidents where there have been innocent lives that have been lost, in a sense, isn't it realistic to expect, unrealistic rather, to expect patience over answers? While you, of course, have said time and again that the timeline is bound.
We need to understand that the country has 3,500 plus daily flights operating. If one incident happens, what percentage are we talking about? Number one. And I'm not talking about fatal, I'm only talking about near-miss accidents and near-miss incidents and other kind of things. Look at it. Look at the scale. You see, in the aviation industry, the safety track record of an airline is judged by the number of accidents per million passengers flown or per million flights. Now, if you judge Indian carriers on those parameters, you will find them to be as good as the foreign airlines, the best of foreign airlines. But yes, what happens is, and I'm not blaming, please don't misunderstand me. In India, even when a plane turns back after takeoff because of a technical issue, it hits the headlines on television and in the media. It does not happen in foreign countries. So you don't get to know about it, what went wrong, and how many planes came back, and where to compare about it. Aviation industry is elitist in nature. It catches eyeballs, I wouldn't deny it. But must everything that happens in the aviation industry get reported, the kind of reports or the headlines it makes, should it happen?
Because value of life is important, Mr. Bhargava. But, you went on to point out about those numbers as well. But record is great. There's, of course, like we started off the conversation as well, there is anxiety among passengers. And we can't, let go of that point, because especially after the incident happened, we all know how people were looking at it. But what should the probe body do to reassure, in your opinion?
The best thing is to look at other airlines which have had an accident, the world's biggest airlines which have had an accident. They were subjected to a similar questioning. Safety track record, pilot error, all those kind of things take place. What happens eventually? 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, and you get back to normalcy. There is no reason why Air India will go through a different trajectory. It will follow what has been the global practice. So people do get scared. I'm not saying it's a temporary setback for an airline. People have that element of fear, particularly those who witnessed it or saw it repeatedly on television. They will have that thing. But as you go along, these things are forgotten, because at the end of the day, you look at an airline safety track record on the parameters I just stated.
All right, Mr. Bhargava, on that note, I want to thank you very much for joining us here on the show. But for now, we leave the conversation at that here on Business at 9. We, in fact, slip into a quick break here, but stay with us this evening. We could be right back with lots more.